On the day I married Raymond, Frida was assaulted in an alley by several men. Afterward, Raymond held her and blamed me, saying, "Kathy, it's your fault for her." From then on, the balance in his heart completely tipped towards someone else. Later, when I was murdered and barely hanging on, I made one last call to Raymond. He impatiently hung up on me, saying, "Can't you understand? Frida is afraid of thunder, and I can't leave right now." In this new life, I decided to do as he wished. I would leave quietly. When I was reborn, Frida was pouring a bowl of scalding hot pot broth directly onto my face. "You slut, is it fun to seduce married men?" As if she were the legitimate wife of Raymond. It was dinner time, and the hot pot restaurant was crowded, with many people looking over. "Oh, so she's the mistress. But that guy just called her his wife. Guess as long as you're good looking, you can have as many wives as you want. Ugh, mistresses deserve to die." Frida smirked, giving me a triumphant, provocative look. In my past life, she was always making a scene, making me uncomfortable, no matter where we were. If I hadn't known the truth before my death, maybe this time I would have endured it again. After all, she was assaulted and became mentally unstable, and Raymond and I shared undeniable responsibility for that. "Kathy, are you okay?" I heard Raymond's gentle voice, sounding like it was from another world. He was carefully wiping the spicy oil off my face. But at that moment, I couldn't help but remember how he had blamed me countless times in my past life. "It's because of us that Frida became like this. Can't you just bear with it?" This time, I instinctively pushed him away. Then, I took the boiling hot broth from the bowl and poured it directly onto Frida's face. "Ah!" Frida screamed, covering her face and rolling exaggeratedly on the ground, looking at me as if I had poisoned her. "Does it hurt?" Watching her in pain made me laugh out loud. I slowly leaned closer to her, my voice filled with hatred bursting from my lips. "Frida, you know what? I've wanted to do this for a long time." Raymond quickly helped Frida up, his expression cold as he reprimanded me. "Kathy, she's just a patient, why are you making a fuss?" "Patient?" I repeated it sarcastically, quietly glancing at Raymond. Then I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. "I've wanted to do that to you for a long time, too." The restaurant erupted in chaos, and someone even pulled out their phone to take pictures. I took my marriage certificate out of my bag and raised my voice so everyone could hear. "Raymond, I'm here today to file for divorce." Raymond looked at me in shock. I didn't want to say anything more, standing tall as I walked out of the hot pot restaurant, feeling dazed. Raymond, and Frida all grew up in the same orphanage and were practically inseparable. Until Raymond was adopted by the family, and we lost contact. Later, I met Raymond again in college, and we got together. At that time, Frida, who was studying abroad, heard the news and teased. "When you guys get married, you must ask me to be the maid of honor." So I never thought she liked Raymond, too. Until the day of the wedding, when my spare ring accidentally went missing. Frida went back to my house to get the ring and was dragged into the alley by a few drunk vagrants. When she was sent to the hospital, barely alive, she kept calling Raymond's name. The longer she called, the longer Raymond remained silent. We cancelled our honeymoon and took turns caring for Frida in the hospital. But whenever Frida saw me, she would go crazy, smashing things, and crying as she hid in Raymond's arms. She was like a fragile rabbit, no longer able to withstand any disturbances. Finally, Raymond rubbed his forehead and said, "Kathy, we owe her an apology. She only recognizes me now. Can you stay away from her?" Since then, the balance in his heart completely tipped towards someone else. Whenever Frida spoke, he would unconditionally choose her over me. Every day after work, he would always drive to Frida's place first and come back late at night, sometimes even not returning at all. What could I say? I felt guilty, unable to say anything, and had no right to say anything. After that incident in my past life, Raymond didn't see Frida for a long time. This situation continued until my birthday. Raymond promised me that he wouldn't go anywhere and would celebrate with me. Then Frida called. I didn't know what happened, I only watched as Raymond's expression grew more anxious, grabbing his coat and rushing out. Almost instinctively, I grabbed his wrist, saying, "Today is my birthday, you promised." Raymond looked at me in disappointment. "Kathy, if you experienced everything Frida went through, you wouldn't say such flippant things." I never expected his words to be prophetic. Not long after Raymond left, several men broke into our home. I immediately hid in the bedroom and called the police. Just after I hung up, those men used a key to open the bedroom door. But how could they have the key to my bedroom? With no time to think, they pinned me to the ground, tearing at my clothes. In the chaos, I seized the chance and dialed Raymond's number. I knew he was with Frida, her house was nearby, and if he could get here quickly. But all I heard was his cold, impatient voice. "Can't you understand? Frida is afraid of thunder, and I can't leave right now." So that's it, he was afraid of the thunder. I could only manage a bitter smile before the thugs roughly snatched my phone and hung up. Whore. I heard an angry curse. In my last moment of life, I told myself, if I could relive this, I would definitely stay far away from them. After my soul left my body, I found myself floating to Frida's home. I saw Frida timidly grabbing Raymond's arm, as if holding onto a lifeline, saying, "Are you leaving?" Raymond put down his phone, touched her forehead, and softly said, "Wait until you fall asleep." Frida's eyes flashed with panic as she suddenly grabbed his shirt and kissed him. Raymond immediately pushed her away, saying, "Frida, I'm married." If you listened closely, you could sense a hint of displeasure. Tears welled up in Frida's eyes, filled with strong unwillingness. If it weren't for her losing the ring back then, I wouldn't have gone through that. "Raymond, you said you would atone for her. You said you would do anything except the last step, didn't you?" Raymond's expression stiffened, and he finally compromised by closing his eyes, allowing Frida to kiss him again. He even reached out his hand to support her waist, preventing her from falling. As if this scene had been played out 1,000 times before. I watched as he gradually became passionate, his eyes tinted with desire, even losing control and pressing down on Frida's head, deepening the kiss. A wave of intense nausea surged in my stomach, making me start to gag. When the thunder stopped, Frida was still too scared to sleep alone, so Raymond stayed to keep her company. He called me several times, but couldn't get through, and his expression gradually darkened. "Is Kathy angry?" Frida asked. Raymond's face was cold, but he didn't say anything. In the middle of the night, after he fell asleep, I saw Frida cautiously get up to make a call on the balcony. "Is everything taken care of?" "What? Someone died?" Frida's face turned pale. "Weren't we told that as long as we had her, we just needed to record a video to threaten her? You useless bunch. Forget it, I can't believe I trusted you. At first, I just wanted you to pretend to assault me, but I never expected you all. It's over, everything is over." It turned out that those thugs were hired by Frida. Even the assault back then was a script she had staged herself. After my death, perhaps feeling guilty, Frida bought a plane ticket to escape the situation. But she was caught at the airport by the police. The person who reported her was a tall man. He looked vaguely familiar. But I was sure it wasn't Raymond. I tried to see the man's face clearly, but lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn. I had just left the hot pot restaurant when Raymond's call came in. "Kathy, I don't agree to the divorce." "Where are you right now?" I held the phone, about to speak, when a car slowly pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a stern face. It started to blend with the face of that man who had called the police in my past life. "Ryan?" Ryan gestured to me, "Get in." Raymond must have heard that. His voice turned cold. "Kathy, how could you be with Ryan?" I hung up the phone without hesitation. Raymond sent a few more messages, insisting he wouldn't go to handle the divorce today and wanted to have a serious talk with me. He also warned me not to get too close to Ryan. I couldn't help but laugh in anger. Ryan was the chairman's estranged nephew, cold in demeanor and distanced from family ties. Raymond was clearly afraid of his uncle. In recent years, Ryan had been in the entertainment industry, showing no interest in the family business. But this year, he suddenly stepped back, hinting at a possible conflict with Raymond over inheritance. Especially during the time right after Raymond and I got married, when he repeatedly abandoned me to find Frida. As I looked at the man in front of me, before I could ask how he ended up here, he said, "I'll take you to the hospital." Ryan's gaze fell on my face. "Does it hurt?" I was taken aback and instinctively touched my face. In my rebirth, filled with resentment, I had overlooked even the pain from the hot soup. Now, with Ryan's question, the pain seemed to catch up, my face and neck burned. "Thanks for your help." I opened the car door and got in. In this new life, my body was the priority. With his kindness, there was no need to be overly sentimental. At the hospital, Ryan had the doctor perform a full checkup. Luckily, the hot pot soup hadn't burned me too badly, and I was mostly fine. After applying the ointment, I squinted at him. I saw Ryan standing by the window, on the phone. "If you're busy, you can go back to the office. Thanks for bringing me to the hospital today." I remembered he rarely visited the family estate, and we hardly crossed paths. I was quite surprised by his sudden kindness. "Not a problem." He hung up. Then, out of nowhere, he asked, "Are you divorcing Raymond?" I froze. It seemed he had witnessed what happened at the hot pot restaurant. I nodded. "I'll find a lawyer tomorrow." He quietly watched me, saying nothing more. I suddenly felt uncomfortable under his gaze. "I'm a bit thirsty." Only then did I realize I had just ordered this decisive, unsmiling man to get me some water. He glanced at me, and actually went to get it. Standing at the hospital entrance, I was filled with mixed emotions. Just then, I ran into Raymond rushing over with Frida in his arms. "Doctor." In that moment of eye contact, Raymond froze. I turned away, expressionless. After waiting in the hospital room for a while, Ryan still hadn't returned. Just as I was about to message him, I heard noise at the door. "Kathy." It was Raymond. "This afternoon, you splashed hot soup on Frida at the restaurant. She thought she would be disfigured, got triggered, and rushed into the kitchen to cut her wrist with a knife. She's bleeding heavily now, but the hospital's blood supply is low. You have the same blood type, can you help her?" I looked at Raymond's anxious face and replied calmly. "Her life or death has nothing to do with me. Can't you see? I'm injured too." "Still throwing a fit?" Raymond strode over, gripping my wrist firmly, his voice broking no argument. "Come with me to donate blood." I had a cut on my wrist as well, just bandaged, and his sudden tug sent a sharp pain through me, making me gasp. But he didn't even notice. "Raymond, you have no right to force me into doing something I don't want to." Raymond's expression darkened. "Kathy, do you really want me to spell it out for you? If you hadn't lost the ring back then, Frida wouldn't have been in danger. Why would I need to take care of her? If you hadn't suddenly gone mad this afternoon, Frida wouldn't have cut her wrist. People must take responsibility for their mistakes." Raymond looked at me coldly. So, in his eyes, I had always been the instigator. I struggled to suppress my rising frustration, retorting, "Raymond, you don't have to make infidelity sound so poetic. Have you forgotten it was Frida who splashed me first? The one who went crazy was her, not me. Frida feared disfigurement. Am I to blame if I get disfigured? Besides, I have a heart condition. Donating blood could endanger my life. But I suppose you forget such things easily. Your heart has already completely turned towards her. What's the point of self-deception?" Raymond stood frozen, his face pale, wanting to argue, but unable to. "Raymond, if I said Frida's assault was merely a play she directed herself, would you believe it? Think about it, why did she insist on not reporting it at the time?" "Enough." Raymond interrupted me harshly. "Kathy, you don't need to make up such absurd excuses to evade responsibility. Believe it or not, it's up to you." I suddenly shook him off, pulled out my phone, and called the police, claiming I was being coerced into donating blood. Ignoring Raymond's dark expression, I calmly informed the police of the hospital address, then looked up at the man I had loved for so many years. "Raymond, I'm serious about the divorce. If you don't agree, I will file a lawsuit." A nurse rushed over to tell Raymond that they had found a backup blood bag. Before leaving, he said, "Kathy, today's incident was my fault. But I really only see Frida as a sister. The person I've always loved is you. The implication was clear, he would never agree to a divorce. When Ryan came in, Raymond had just left. There was no hot water, so I went downstairs to buy some dumplings and porridge. He was explaining why he took so long. I naturally didn't mind. He seemed to sense my discomfort and suggested he should head back to the office. Watching him finally leave, I let out a sigh of relief. Then I received a WeChat message. Ryan sent me a business card. A lawyer who specializes in divorce cases, with a good winning rate, never lost a case. I was surprised. Still, I politely thanked him. "Thank you, Uncle." There was a brief silence on the other end before he replied, "Since you've decided to divorce, you don't need to call me uncle anymore." During the time I was preparing to file for divorce, I stayed in the hospital to recover. Raymond came to see me many times. His tone was soft, his attitude sincere, assuring me that he would send Frida abroad for treatment and wouldn't contact her again. I just coldly instructed security to remove him. That night, Frida suddenly messaged me. "Did you think you won? Let me tell you, last night he got drunk, and we slept together. Who knows, I might already be pregnant with his child." Then she unsent the message. I stared at the screen for a few seconds and replied. "Make sure to take precautions. If you end up with a child as brain dead as you, that would truly be your sin." On the day I was discharged, Raymond came to see me again, saying he was willing to discuss the divorce, but under one condition. I had to attend his mother's birthday party. "My mom has always liked you. She's not in great health lately and wants to see you. After the party, I'll talk to you." I agreed. Raymond's mom's party was lively, with relatives all around. "Kathy is getting prettier, if only I had such a diligent daughter-in-law." Amidst the relatives' compliments, I realized Raymond hadn't mentioned our plans to divorce to his family. "Hey, is that Ryan? Doesn't he usually avoid these gatherings? Why is he here today? Right? He and Raymond have never gotten along, maybe he's here to stir things up. What else could he do, steal his wife? Ha ha ha." Just as I sipped my drink, I spotted Ryan, surrounded by admirers. He stood out in the crowd with his tall stature. When his gaze swept over me, it was utterly unruffled. I politely nodded at him. But he just stared at me silently, his expression unreadable, before coldly shifting his gaze away. What a strange person. What was he angry about? "Kathy." A voice called out beside me. Raymond, dressed sharply, wore a gentle smile on his handsome face. He reached out his hand to me. "Mom is waiting for you in the hall. Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared and skillfully linked her arm through his. "Raymond, I've been looking for you everywhere." It was Frida. I was somewhat surprised that Raymond had brought her along. Did this mean his family acknowledged her? Raymond's smile faded as he quickly pulled Frida's hand away, a hint of unease in his voice. "Kathy, don't misunderstand. I just smiled. Raymond, we're about to get divorced. Who you bring to a family dinner is your choice." Frida's displeasure was evident on her face. I changed my tone. Just bringing an unrelated person really took me by surprise. Frida's face turned pale. She stared at me, her gaze filled with hostility. When her eyes fell on the wine glass in my hand, she oddly smiled for a moment. "Kathy, I hope you have fun today." My instincts told me something was off. After exchanging pleasantries with Mom Jiang, I decided to find an excuse to leave quickly. Most likely, Raymond wouldn't talk to me about the divorce today, he just wanted to trick me into coming for his mom's birthday. On my way to the bathroom, a sudden wave of heat hit me, and I realized what Frida had done. My legs went weak, and I stumbled against the wall. In my hazy state, a hand covered my mouth, and then I lost consciousness. I woke up in an unfamiliar room, my mouth taped shut and my hands and feet bound. I could faintly hear voices. I drugged her. "When the time comes, you all go in and make sure to record it. Remember, I'll bring everyone to catch them in the act, so leave some marks on her." I struggled to open my eyes, seeing Frida talking to several men at the door. Their faces. were unmistakably the same as those men who had murdered me in my past life. This should happen years from now. Why was it happening so soon? And this was their family. Had Frida lost her mind? When Frida left, the men started arguing about something. Then I heard footsteps approaching from outside. Seizing the opportunity, I lifted a heavy ashtray and smashed it against the door. Bang! The dull sound of the door hitting drew the footsteps outside to a hesitant stop. What a damn B***tch. My action clearly enraged the men, who came over cursing, just like in my past life. Before they could do anything, the door was slammed open. In the blur, I seemed to see Ryan's furious face. Ryan. When I opened my eyes again, my restraints were gone, and only Ryan was left in the room. I struggled to stand, but my legs gave out, and I fell forward. Instead of the anticipated pain, I landed in a warm embrace. I clutched his collar to steady myself. Help me. I clearly saw his throat tighten. Kathy. I tried to calm myself down and finish my sentence. Take me to the bathroom. Ryan stared at me for a while, seemingly lost in thought, then quickly pushed me into the bathroom. Cold water poured over my head, barely suppressing the heat within me. Are you ready? Ryan asked from outside the door. I opened the bathroom door to signal that I was feeling a bit better, but still felt awkward. The atmosphere was subtly tense. Ryan casually asked, "Are you planning to forgive Raymond for coming to the party today?" I immediately denied it. No way. It's impossible between us now. Then I explained what had happened. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but I noticed a barely perceptible trace of delight in his expression. Suddenly, voices and footsteps flooded in from outside. I just saw Kathy go into this room with a man. I can't be mistaken. The voices grew closer. In a panic, I pushed Ryan into the bathroom. The door burst open with a bang. The first to rush in was Raymond. Behind him, Frida led almost all the guests. And there I was, flushed, water droplets still clinging to my clothes. I had visible marks from the struggle with those men. It was hard not to draw conclusions. Everyone had a look of disbelief on their faces, whispering, "Oh my God, what's going on? Who would believe nothing happened? Raymond's so-called good wife turns out to be a slut." Someone even whistled, making this situation even more chaotic. Raymond, furious, fixed his gaze on the red marks on my neck and wrists. Without a word of explanation. The next second, a slap landed heavily on my face, knocking me to the ground. Raymond's cold, jealous voice burst from between clenched teeth. "Tell me, who is that wild man?" In an instant, I sprang to my feet and slapped him back hard. Fueled by 2 lifetimes of anger, I poured all my strength into delivering 3 solid slaps. My sharp nails broke his skin, leaving behind bright red marks. He touched his face, his eyes mixing pain and fury, as if he could only utter those words. "Who is he?" At the same time, the bathroom door was suddenly yanked open. Before the crowd, Ryan stepped out of the bathroom with a mocking smile. "Raymond, you're quite good at hitting women." His voice was laced with unspoken anger. I hadn't expected Ryan to come out now. I stood frozen. The atmosphere fell silent, then gasps echoed around us, a wave of shock. "It's you?" Raymond's eyes turned red, his expression twisted with rage. "Ryan, you seduced my wife." He swung his fist at Ryan, who deftly dodged and missed entirely, falling awkwardly to the ground. Ryan looked down at him. "After all these years, you still haven't changed at all." Raymond's eyes reddened further, shouting, "I'll kill you." He sprang to his feet and charged again. Both were tall, but Ryan had a slight height and strength advantage, making the outcome clear. Ryan easily sidestepped him, then delivered a heavy punch to Raymond's face. "This punch is to teach you to respect women." Taking advantage of Raymond's momentary shock, Ryan seized his collar and threw several more punches, each one connecting. "This punch is to remind you to be loyal to your marriage. This punch is because you unjustly slandered your elders." The scene was deathly quiet, no one dared to step in and mediate, while Raymond was on the receiving end of the attack. I don't know how long it lasted, but eventually, Ryan stopped. He rubbed his wrist and met my gaze. As if to say, "Are you feeling better now?" I stared at him, at a loss for words. "Raymond, are you okay?" Frida finally rushed to Raymond, who was battered and bleeding. But Raymond didn't look at her, only glaring fiercely at Ryan, emotions swirling in his eyes until they glistened with unshed tears. "If you want the company, I can give it to you. Why do you have to take my Kathy?" Looking at his self-proclaimed affection, I felt no sympathy, even a bit disgusted. Ryan coldly regarded him. "Today is your mother and sister-in-law's birthday party. You think I'd mess around with your wife now? Has that woman beside you eaten your brain?" At his words, not only was Raymond stunned, but Frida's expression turned ugly as well. Ryan scoffed, his gaze sweeping over everyone. I just walked past this room and saw a few men in server uniforms trying to assault Kathy. When they noticed someone was coming, they fled without doing anything. If anyone has eyes, they'd see the signs of a struggle in this room, notice the tape and ropes on the floor, and see the red marks on Kathy's limbs. The clueless crowd. If you really can't see, surely you have ears. Ryan looked at me, his voice firm. "Kathy, don't you have evidence?" I froze for a moment, but quickly understood the implication behind his words. I pulled out a recorder from my pocket. It wasn't hard to guess. Before going to the bathroom earlier, I had taken the recorder out to prevent it from getting wet, and Ryan must have seen it. Yes, I had carried the recorder with me since I agreed to attend the party, just in case. When Frida and those men conspired to frame me, I had recorded everything. It was indeed useful now. The moment Frida saw the recorder, her face turned pale. She lunged forward to grab it, but Raymond held her arm tightly. "What are you feeling guilty about?" I watched her in fear with satisfaction, then hit play. In the next second, the recorder clearly echoed Frida's cold voice. "I drugged her, and you all need to record a video when you go after her. Remember, I'll bring everyone over to catch her in the act. Make sure to leave more marks on her, to make her look like a slut." The room fell into an eerie silence. Frida collapsed to the ground, tentatively reaching for Raymond's hand. "Raymond." "Slut." Raymond slapped her hard across the face, his fingers trembling. "Yes, we were wrong back then. But do you hate Kathy so much that you want someone to ruin her? I've tried to compensate you as much as possible, what more do you want?" He nearly shouted this out. "Because I want you to love me. Love me the way you love Kathy." Frida's face was as white as paper, her expression spiraling into madness. "You think I don't know? Every time you kiss me, you're thinking of her, aren't you? I can't accept it, Raymond. Why should we grow up together, and you end up loving her? What do I have that's less than her?" The room erupted in chaos. Did I just hear that wrong? Isn't this cheating? I suddenly felt grateful that Frida had such a not-so-bright mind, and said, "I came to this party because Raymond promised me earlier that he would discuss divorce with me. We reached this point because he cheated with Frida. But I didn't expect Frida to drug me to trap me so we could get divorced sooner. If it weren't for Ryan's help, she might have really destroyed me." I lowered my gaze at the right moment, letting out a bitter smile. Disdain, mockery, and contempt flooded toward Frida. A mistress is just a mistress, and her thoughts are quite venomous. To be fair, even though Ryan is only 3 years older than Raymond, he's stable and reliable, plus he's the chairman's son, which seems more fitting for taking over the company. That's true. By the way, have you called the police? This woman is really tarnishing my eyes by staying here. What about those guys? We can't let them escape. Just as I was about to speak, Ryan's deep voice came from behind. I just called the police, those guys have already been caught. I looked up at him. Ryan gave me a reassuring look. Those men had tampered with the corridor surveillance, thinking they could escape by climbing over the rockery. But they didn't know that after a recent burglary, we had installed cameras outside the walls. The cameras captured their license plate numbers. I just received news that the police have already apprehended them. Upon hearing this, Frida, surprisingly more agitated than before, fainted outright. When she woke up, the police had also arrived. According to the confessions of those men, they identified Frida as the mastermind behind this planned rape case. The police uncovered another matter. Frida had staged her own assault back then. As the police took her away, Frida screamed hoarsely, "I'm a victim too. I hired them back then, but they went back on their word and really assaulted me. So I hate Kathy. If it weren't for her, how could I have gone through this? I swear I will take revenge on her, and let her experience the pain I went through. Raymond, only you can save me. I love you so much, everything I've done is for you." At the moment the truth hit him, Raymond looked like he had been struck by lightning, frozen in shock. After a long time, he slowly turned to me, stiffly. "Kathy." I looked calmly at his pale face, watching the pain and helplessness overflow in his eyes. He was crying. It was as if countless words were stuck in his throat, unable to make a sound, finally turning into endless regret with his reddened eyes. Suddenly, I recalled something that happened in the orphanage. On my 8th birthday, I desperately wanted a bottle of Coke. At that time, Raymond suddenly went missing, and the orphanage director searched for a long time without finding him, almost calling the police. When he finally returned, he was covered in injuries. He took off his coat and handed me the cold Coke he had been hiding in his arms, grinning as he wished me a happy birthday. But then he gasped in pain from the wound on his lip. Later, I learned he had been wrestling with some kids outside, with a bottle of Coke as the prize. That day, I received a second gift. 7-year-old Frida cried as she smashed her little rabbit piggy bank, using her saved pocket money to buy me a 2-inch strawberry cake. Because of that cake, after Raymond was adopted and left, the next year a wealthy family came to the orphanage. When the director asked if I wanted to go with them, I glanced at Frida, who looked timid yet hopeful, and gently shook my head. So Frida left with them while I stayed in the orphanage until I turned 18. Time passed, and the Raymond who once got beaten up just to get me a Coke, the Frida who spent all her pocket money on birthday gifts for me, and I, who once gave up a hard-earned chance at adoption. None of us were the same as we once were. Finally, I said to Raymond, "Perhaps at first, you were trying to compensate Frida, but gradually developing feelings for her isn't a lie. You don't have to deny it, there's no need to deny it. Those moments of being casually discarded, those sleepless nights, all serve as proof. Changing your heart means you've changed your heart, forcing things won't do anything but make me feel disgusted about my past memories. Raymond, let's free each other." Raymond had always opposed the divorce, so I ultimately decided to file for it. Fortunately, the lawyer Ryan introduced was reliable. I became his 106th client to win a divorce case. I received a significant asset, part of which I used to register a company, recruiting staff and working tirelessly for several months. 3 months after the divorce, I finally found time to take Ryan and the lawyer out for dinner. In the evening, I saw Ryan's car in front of the company. "Congratulations on starting anew." He smiled. Since the lawyer was friends with Ryan, we often had dinner together during the litigation. Over time, I got to know Ryan a bit better. He appeared cold, but he was quite tasteful and cultured, having his own opinions and principles on many matters. He rarely smiled, but when he did, it was mesmerizing. Just like now, I briefly lost my train of thought and realized I was already in the passenger seat next to Ryan. As I looked at his sharply defined profile, my brain resumed its function, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Did you say the lawyer wasn't joining us for dinner?" "Yeah. He's going on a blind date." "Oh?" I became curious. He's a young talent, successful in his career. Does he really need a blind date? Ryan rested one hand on the steering wheel, turning his head slightly, with a teasing smile. "Are you satisfied with him?" I instinctively followed his line of thought. "He's good-looking, any girl would be smitten." "What about me?" His gaze was deep like a whirlpool, hiding unknown emotions. My heart inexplicably skipped a beat, and I stuttered, what?" Ryan, however, looked away, unbuttoning 2 buttons on his shirt collar, revealing a line of elegant skin at his collarbone. "Nothing." After dinner, Ryan and I walked by the river. Stars twinkled on the water's surface, casting patches of light as a gentle breeze stirred the small boats. "Want to take a boat ride?" Ryan suddenly suggested. I hadn't been on a boat in a long time, so I agreed. But the moment we both got on the boat, I sensed the atmosphere had become a bit delicate. I couldn't pinpoint what was off, but it just felt different. Ryan sat across from me, his long legs casually crossed, his posture relaxed yet elegant. Even in such an environment, he looked like a nobleman stepped out from a medieval European mural. I suddenly remembered that before he left the entertainment industry, he was once voted as the dream lover every girl wants to marry by the media. To break the awkwardness, I brought this up to Ryan, laughing. I voted for you too, just because I was bored and thought it was for the sake of family. Later, a zombie account even retweeted my post, which startled me. A zombie account? Ryan's tone suddenly dropped. Yeah, one day that account suddenly followed me. No profile picture, no posts, no information. He likes all my photos, what else could it be but a bot? But he did retweet that post saying you're the dream girl every guy wants to marry. I was really surprised, because that was the only thing he ever posted. If I didn't know for sure it was a bot, I'd think he had a crush on me, haha. Ryan suddenly fell silent. I became restless, sensing something was about to happen. That red lantern by the shore looks nice, I want to take a picture. I stood up quickly with my phone, trying to change the subject. But I lost my balance and, before I could even be surprised, I fell into someone's arms. I ended up sitting on Ryan's lap, his arm wrapped around my waist, while my hand rested on his chest uncontrollably. I could feel his heartbeat racing under my palm. In that moment, time seemed to freeze, and I stared at him wide-eyed. In the dim, ambiguous light, he had long brows and a strong nose, looking deeply into my eyes, his warm breath brushing my nose. You. He locked eyes with me and said slowly, Kathy, that was my account. I've loved you for many years. I was stunned. Until Ryan drove me home and left, I still felt a bit dazed. I hadn't been entirely oblivious, though. Moments spent with Ryan replayed in my mind like a whirlwind. The day we coincidentally ran into each other after leaving the hot pot restaurant, how he took me to the hospital, how he saved me from those men, taught Raymond a lesson, accompanied me to fight my divorce, and even reported Frida in my past life. Clues were everywhere. But why? Aside from confusion and dizziness, my heart seemed to be racing too. I've loved you for many years. Ryan's confession echoed in my ears, tinged with a slight tremor. Just now, when he saw me staring at him blankly, he suddenly smiled and said, It's okay, I can wait. I felt my face heat up. Kathy. A familiar yet strange voice came from behind me. I turned and saw Raymond standing there, silently watching me in the moonlight. His face was pale, with faint dark circles under his eyes, his cheeks gaunt, resembling a withered branch in autumn. Was it him who brought you back just now? Are you two together? Who he referred to was obvious. I looked at him coldly and asked, Does it matter to you? Raymond's face turned as white as paper as he sadly lowered his head. I've been having the same dream every day. I dreamed that back at the hot pot restaurant, you didn't retaliate but held it in. Later, Frida became more demanding, and I became increasingly ridiculous. On your birthday, I abandoned you to take care of a scared Frida, and that night, the men she hired. Raymond seemed to struggle to continue. He mustered the courage to look at me, his voice tangled, anxious, and slightly trembling with self-doubt. Is it true? I didn't answer, keeping my fists clenched by my side, simply looking at him calmly. Like a kite string snapping, his eyes turned red instantly. So it's true. Kathy, whenever you encounter something painful, you always clench your fists, your nails digging into your skin. No matter how I try to correct you, you still do it. Tears streamed down his face. So, Kathy, it's real. It's something that happened in our past life. So in this life, you wanted to divorce me. You just wanted to save yourself. He raised his hand to cover his eyes, but tears still poured through his fingers. What was I doing back then? I sought Frida when you needed me most, and hung up on you when you asked for help. How sad and desperate you must have felt back then. Even in this life, I urged you to endure, forced you to donate blood to Frida, didn't believe you, and slapped you without considering the consequences. I'm sorry, truly sorry. I looked pale, quietly listening to his confession. Kathy, whether you believe it or not, I've always loved you. I never liked Frida, It's always been guilt and responsibility, now it's just hatred and disgust. Raymond wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, taking deep breaths before he could speak in broken phrases. I know you'll never forgive me. I won't forgive myself either. I'll find my own way to atone to you. Is that enough? I looked at him expressionlessly. If you're done, leave and don't ever show up in front of me again. I never want to see you again in this life. Raymond glanced at me in silence, then forced out a smile that was more painful than tears. All right. Before he left, he told me one last thing. I almost got Ryan kidnapped. He was missing for 3 days and nights, and only on the 4th day was he found. So he has always hated me. I'm not sure if him approaching you and taking you away was a form of revenge against me. Soon, Raymond voluntarily gave up his claim to the company inheritance and disappeared from everyone's sight. Frida was diagnosed as pregnant while in prison, released on bail, and brought back to the estate by Raymond. The first night after Frida was brought home, Raymond returned. In the middle of the night, he accidentally killed her, resulting in 2 deaths. He's now in police custody. When Ryan told me this, I couldn't help but sigh. Do you feel sorry for her? I shook my head. Whether in this life or the past, Frida always wanted me dead. Her current fate is just her own doing, evil begets evil. If I pity her, then who would pity me from my past life? Ryan paused, and what about Raymond? I raised an eyebrow, staring at him for a moment until he looked away slightly, then said calmly, I have no feelings for him anymore. Ryan's forehead relaxed. Oh. During this time, Ryan and I were in a relationship that was more than friends, but less than lovers. He picked me up from work every day, we had dinner together, and on weekends, we traveled together. He even used his connections in the entertainment industry to get me VIP tickets to my favorite singer's concert, the interactive kind. The song for the interaction was called, I Like You. That day was the first time I realized Ryan could sing. His deep, magnetic voice sounded like a lover's whisper, stirring my heart repeatedly. As for Raymond's speculation, I certainly wouldn't rashly doubt Ryan's good intentions toward me. If he really wanted revenge on Raymond, why had he silently stood by my side in the past life and only dared to show his true feelings when he heard I wanted to divorce this life? Moreover, I clearly remembered Ryan's genuine tears and sadness when he saw Frida finally being brought to justice in our past life. But Ryan must have other secrets he was keeping from me. He didn't want to say it now, and I wouldn't force him to. I thought it would take a long time to learn that secret, but the opportunity came sooner than I expected. That day we went hiking, I was exhausted and squatting on the ground, saying I couldn't walk anymore. Ryan smiled, ruffled my hair, then bent down. I'll carry you. I wrapped my arms around his neck. Then I won't hold back. Once I was settled, Ryan grabbed the bag and carefully walked along the mountain path with me on his back. His back was strong and firm, I could smell a faint, pleasant scent from him that softly enveloped me. For some reason, I felt this scene was oddly familiar, as if I had experienced it before. Actually, you carried me like this before, Ryan suddenly said. Tell me more, I perked up. I was around 11 or 12. My brother and sister-in-law hadn't had kids for years, so they adopted a child from the orphanage who was about my age, Raymond. When he first came, he was awkward and restless, always wanting to return to the orphanage, saying he was looking for someone named Kathy. My sister-in-law asked me to take him to school, but he ran away halfway. That day I was kidnapped, and everyone thought I went missing on the way to find him. I thought for a moment and told him, Raymond said you approached me to get back at him. Ryan paused and laughed in disbelief. He really knows how to make himself look good. Back then, I was always seen as a well-behaved child, and the more I was constrained, the more I wanted to break free. After I confirmed he had returned to the orphanage, I went to an internet coffee for the first time. Playing games? I was surprised. Ryan replied with a simple yeah. But when I realized gaming wasn't as fun as I thought, I left, and on my way through the alley, I got kidnapped. They took me to a house on the mountain, and a little girl brought me meals. She had a tiny face and slightly curly hair. As distant memories flooded my mind, I cautiously asked, were you really that dark back then? Ryan chuckled, unable to hold back his laughter, at that time, they smeared me with several layers of potash to disguise me. I was surprised, then it clicked. That old lady on the mountain often came to the orphanage to see me. During that time, she fell ill, and I temporarily moved in to take care of her. But I knew she had a son who loved to gamble, and he likely wanted to kidnap Ryan for ransom. However, I really couldn't remember the details clearly. What happened next? Later. Ryan suddenly smiled. I told you that day was my birthday and asked if you could take me down the mountain. I promised to treat you to cake. You happily agreed and asked if we could have strawberry flavor. You even asked if you could have an extra bottle of Coke. I froze for a moment and then smiled too. I had been hurt in the leg by them and couldn't walk down alone. You helped me halfway down the mountain and then carried me the rest of the way. To be honest, I've never seen a girl so determined for cake and Coke. You were so exhausted that sweat was dripping down your forehead, your legs were shaking, but you still gritted your teeth and managed to carry me down. As he spoke, Ryan paused, his tone suddenly turning a bit apologetic. After we got down, I wanted to keep my promise and buy the cake, but I saw those people coming after us, so I had to hide. I saw them frantically burning your arm with cigarette butts. It must have hurt a lot, but you didn't say a word. I hurried to find a waiter to call the police, but when I came out to look for you, you were already gone. I unconsciously looked at my exposed arms. Sure enough, there was a faint scar on the inside of one. After that, I kept trying to find you. To let you see me, I gave up my inheritance and chose to enter the entertainment industry, working hard step by step until I finally reached the top, the most visible position. All these years, it felt like finding you was my life goal. I thought my life would only be complete once I achieved it. But when we finally met again, it was at your wedding with Raymond. That was the first time I experienced heartbreak. It was then that I realized my obsession with you had turned into affection, into love. But I had to choose to stay away and watch you from a distance. Later, when Raymond was unfaithful to you, I was furious, but felt powerless. I could only step back from the entertainment industry and remind him, through a property dispute, that he shouldn't give me any leverage, hoping he'd treat you better. And then, you initiated the divorce. Kathy, although it's somewhat unethical, I was quite happy. As he said this, Ryan's voice became low, with a light-hearted tone that made it clear he was genuinely happy. I felt my face flush and my heart settled on a decision I had long hesitated over. In this new life, all I wanted was to live well. If someone genuinely and passionately liked me, consistently, then I'd like him too. So why not give it a try? Finally reaching the foot of the mountain, Ryan said, Kathy, I still owe you a strawberry cake and a bottle of Coke. I gently rested my head against his back and said in a soft voice, but one he could clearly hear, then you're sentenced to treat me to strawberry cake and Coke for the rest of your life. The end.